Hey, 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 it's Mystery Monday. Welcome to Aquarius. Yes, indeed. Welcome to Aquarius Rising Africa, everybody. And it's a beautiful Monday with two beautiful, beautiful, beautiful human beings who I absolutely so look forward to talking to every week. Brice and Steph, how are you two beauties?
Well, we've already had a shit show of a morning, so it's nothing. I mean, we were laughing, pulling out all the sages, all the holy waters.
I cannot resist. I cannot resist. Okay, guys, I have to show you something. Check this out. And this is only half of it. This is called, I have to tell you, this is called Mpepu, okay, which is African sage. It is stronger than sage. Mpepu, it's divine. So it was given to me the other day, and I just thought it was so hilarious because I wanted to Mpepu my house. And then I just like burnt up half the bush. So I'm very pure now. Good morning,
So
good afternoon.
If halfway through the street you see smoke coming up from Shanti, she's lit it because obviously someone does not want us talking about this topic today. So we're pulling everything out. So like, all the weapons. All of a sudden we have all our rocks out.
And I tell you,
let me on. Somebody doesn't want me on.
I got on, I was like, oh shit, I can't hear anything, which used to happen on the Dark Outpost all the time, where I'd have to like sign out. I was like, okay, so obviously there's something of value that we're going to talk about today, because otherwise wouldn't be trying to stop us. So
oh my goodness! Well, as I said, I'm just in pep with the whole place here. So, and that'll put it. And I'm telling you, everyone who comes to Africa knows that Africa is just like a little bit more powerful. You know, all these things just a little bit more juicy.
Extra. So, what the kids say,
a little bit extra. Yeah. So with your holy water and your sage, Stephanie, and my Mpepu,
I did my now that soon, so hopefully we're good, you know.
Hopefully. I mean, I was like literally you can't help but laugh because like I'm so excited about this topic, and I was like, oh, of course. Of course. This one really important topic, of fucking course, they're going to be doing this to us today. We see you. We see you, controllers.
It's really common.
What was that thing from the show Friends where they know we know, we know they know we know, they know we know we know they know. And so it's just like a tug of war of like a stare down contest at this point to see like who's gonna win. And it's kind of pathetic, controllers. Like, you really think that just making our StreamYard fuck up is gonna stop us from talking about this?
Exactly. That's why I say, you know, quite frankly, they've never encountered African Mpepu before. I think this is the problem for them.
They don't know what they're messing with. They're like, why won't these people just go away?
I wish you could have seen my class.
Oh no, she's frozen, guys.
Oh no, here I am. Okay.
I mean, literally, I have my holy water that looks like hairspray. It's not Aquanet, although I'm sure Aquanet could kill a demon if it needed to. Holy water.
Okay. Well, I'm having lots of fun here. Good chuckle. Most definitely the way that I want to certainly end my Monday, and hopefully you girls can start your week having a good chuckle. So, and now my hair is looking crazy.
That's the biggest weapon. That's the biggest weapon against demons is laughter, because they don't know how to laugh. So
exactly. Why do you think I laugh so much? I'm forever surrounded with them, but I'm safe, you know. I just see them on the periphery. That's all good. Anyway, yeah, exactly. Okie dokie, yay! Awesome topic
Yes.
that we're talking about, that we're going to be talking about today. The emerald tablets, as well as Thoth and the Amenti. What is that? Sorry, just say
Halls
that
of
again.
Amente. Halls of Amente.
Halls of
So
Amenti.
you guys, like when I sent a recording. We'll see if we can play it later. It's on my channel, but they have it. Shanti Mornay have it too. So if we can't play the recording on the show, they have my permission to put it up on there because it's just a reading from the third tablet. Because you guys, whoa, like whoa, this is unbelievable. And Thoth now is one of my favorite. I don't know want to say people. The Thoth, you know, the Egyptians call Thoth a deity, but Thoth never called himself a deity. And when we look at mythology, I think we understand this. A lot of times mythology, whether it's based on a real person or not, ain't nothing but an allegory or a metaphor, right? It's like when we talk about like going like, you know, if we look at if we look at the Jesus story of crucifixion, now I don't believe Yahshua was actually crucified, but if we do look at the Jesus story of crucifixion, it's a metaphor of going into the underworld, into hell, before being able to rise back up again, which is exactly what we're doing currently on the Shadow Work Challenge, is pushing people into their own triggers, into their own underworld, to then be able to transmute it and rise above. And this is what these emerald tablets are all about. Now, as far as the mythology around Thoth, he's the god of the moon, the sacred text, the sciences, magics. He keeps the records of all the deities. He's the patron saint of scribes. He's the master of knowledge. That's so Thoth. This is where we get the word thought from. The master of knowledge. Okay, and if we see him, so if Ra was the sun god, then Thoth was the counterpart of the moon. Now, once again, I do believe that Thoth actually lived as a human being, and we're going to talk about that. But these metaphors, I believe this mythology was created from their teachings. Now, this mythology is now weaponized against us by things like the church, where they say, oh, it's demonic, where if you actually study it, Thoth himself does not call himself a deity. In the Emerald Tablets, he does not ask you to worship him. He is literally a teacher, okay? So we have to understand where the propaganda lies and where information has been weaponized against us, okay? So, so the mythology says that he was born from the lips of Ra, so the sun had to have a polarity of the moon, or that he was self-created. He lays the cosmic egg of creation. Again, I see this strictly as metaphor, strictly as the teachings, right? He created writing, the calendar. He controls time and space. All right, so that's interesting. If you study the law of one, they talk about time, space, space, time, which is still a concept that's really hard for me to understand, the difference between time, space, and space, time. And I can't remember which category we're in now, but we're going to flip to the other one when we flip into Age of Aquarius, which is going to change our perception of how energy moves through time. Because we actually know, and our friend Emmy has said before, time is not bound by location, by time. But time is not bound by, energy is not bound by time or location. Energy is always moving. That's why we can hold wounds in our body from when we were 5, and they still trigger us at 40. You know, because it's not, energy is not bound by that time. And neither are we. And so that's our energy. So that's what we're going to see in the Emerald Tablets. Now, there are temples that people have found dedicated to Thoth. But as I said on my channel, I think these were actually schools. I don't think they were actually temples. Just after reading through the Emerald Tablets and studying Thoth and his insistence upon him not being worshipped, I believe that what these were schools. And I think that it's been weaponized as a demonic temple when that is not what it was at all. And so that's just my opinion on that. Now, a lot of these remains are just ruins, so we don't really have any way of totally knowing for sure, just so you guys know, because I do encourage people to do their own research on this. So why is he called the moon god or the moon teacher? Is because he provides the light at night, a time to see without the sun. And so what does that tell us about shadow work? He's teaching you how to go into your own underworld, right? The teacher can show you the light switch, but you got to turn it on, right? Also, some people will say Thoth as well. I say Thoth. Anyway, so let's talk about Thoth as who he really was. So he was an Atlantean priest king. So he was a ruler as well as a priest. And I thought this was interesting that he calls himself an Atlantean priest king. Because back in the time of Lemuria, of Atlantis, even into Tartaria, a lot of, if we saw the Merovingians, a lot of these quote unquote rulers were also spiritually responsible as well. So they saw themselves, we saw again with the Merovingians, which it is going to tie into Thoth, the Merovingian line. They took responsibility of taking care of their people, of teaching their people, of being there with their people, not like so when we see this idea of a ruler, it's not the same as what we have today in our world, okay? It's not people who were corrupted of power. This was, of course, the corruption of power, which we'll talk about with the fall of Atlantis, was what caused it to fall, which we're going to get into. So after Atlantis fell, so we know that Atlantis was, in my opinion, from what we're looking at with Tartaria, all that kind of stuff, Atlantis was the apocalypse, the fall of Atlantis, the great flood, the great deluge, as they say, the flood story, which in my mind is really good news. I don't know why people are so hell-bent on the apocalypse being now. I mean, we've already been through it, y'all, and I'm going to talk about that because we lived through it. And I know that from the Law of One as well as now from the Emerald Tablets. All of us, I know, Shanti, we've had conversations about this off camera before about being in Atlantis and all that kind of stuff. And karmically, we are back. If you were here for the fall of Atlantis, that you had a round trip ticket to come back for this time, because this time is mirroring that time. So when Atlantis fell, so fantastic, right? But we're going to get in that because that talks about this in the Emerald Tablets. So after Atlantis fell, we see this in the Bible as Noah's Ark, the flood story. If you think that Noah was the only person to survive the flood, then I have a bridge in London that I want to sell you. Because that is huge cognitive dissonance. Like, not one person in his family survived the flood. There were lots. We know this. We know that a lot of people went to the Pyrenees Mountains. We know that people went up to the Appalachian Mountains here in the United States. They went to high ground to survive the flood. So who are these people that survived the floods? They were the Atlanteans. They were the leftover Atlanteans, okay? And this is where we get the Merovingian bloodline again, the O negative bloodline, which is what Shanti and I are. That is the Atlantean, literal Atlantean bloodline. Now, that doesn't mean all of us living on this earth today are descendants of the people who survived Atlantis. So even if you're not an O negative blood type, you're still a descendant of the people of the people who survived. Even with the mud flood that happened with Tartaria, they were still taking from the DNA of those who survived. So that is why I wanted to bring that up, because that's super, super, super important. Now, after Atlantis fell and we had the flood and the water started to recede, that is when Thoth started to write the Emerald Tablets. So he really got into the Emerald Tablets about 2 or 3 generations post-destruction. So at this point, Billy Carson does a really good job talking about this, about what life would have been like. So in Atlantis, we went from this society that was more technologically advanced than we are now. And then all of a sudden, everything was flooded out. Many people died, but the ones that survived went into survival mode. So they went from being, could you imagine our world today, having Zooms, having cell phones, having all these things, and all of a sudden you're living in a cave again. You're having to hunt for your food again. You're having to grow your own food again. You're having to repopulate the world. You know, all these things. Well, not only did that happen for them where they all of a sudden lost everything, but they also, at this point, the ones that were left started to go through the veil of amnesia. So because we changed timelines, right? So they started to forget. There's a great story about with I just read last week for the Sophia to return with Ishtar and Tammuz, where Ishtar volunteers to go to Earth to find Tammuz, and she finds herself forgetting. The amnesia slowly starts to sink in. Now, Thoth did not suffer the amnesia, and this is because at this point Thoth was what they would call an immortal. And this means that he had conquered death. Well, what do I mean by that? This is something we're all on the journey of discovering. And I know this might sound hooky to people, but if we think back even into the Bible, people were living thousands of years, right? Like even in biblical times, people were living longer than we're living now. And we know that death is the great illusion. We know that your soul can't die. It's just the body that changes outfits. And if we truly understand the power of that, then we can control how long we stay in this body. I have not figured that out yet, but that we are saying that when we cross into the new timeline, we could live to 400 years, 1,000 years again. Holy shit, that's a lot of like work and we're going to have to do, but it's a lot of birthdays and Christmases to celebrate, but that's the reality. And if you think that's crazy, again, go back and look at all these scriptures where people were living this long. And so to say that Thoth was an immortal, he lived about 16,000 years post the fall of Atlantis. Okay. So he was around for a really, really, really long time. Now, because he had found enlightenment, because he had conquered his own shadow, his own work, he basically pulled himself back and wrote these emerald tablets. Now he knew that these emerald tablets, what he was writing in these tablets, would not be for the people living then. He knew these emerald tablets were for guess what? For us now. He knew that what he was writing was not going to be able to be read until we came to a certain level of remembrance. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is not remembering everything about your past lives. It's not remembering that. It's remembering who your soul is. It's like what Shanti and I and Stephanie had this shadow work challenge going, that we would be ready to accept again that our karma is our work and our triggers are our work. And when we go into the darkness, then we transmute and become the light. Now, for many generations after that, people could not have understood that at all, especially with the controls of the church, where if bad things happen to you, that's God punishing you. Right? But now we're breaking through into that. So these emerald tablets were actually written for us today, you watching today, right now. Okay? And what's interesting, so there's a lot of a legend around the emerald tablets and how they were discovered. So we are told that a emperor named Cheops, a pharaoh named Cheops built the Great Pyramids of Giza. Interestingly enough, though, we don't have a lot of information on Cheops. We know he was a tyrannical ruler. He was a bit of a dick, but we're used to that in our world today. All of our rulers are dicks. So, that's not much of a stretch for us to imagine, right? We were also told that the pyramids were burial spots for royalty, right? That's what we were taught. But now we know that's not true. That's not what the pyramids were. Pyramids were libraries, harnessing of energy. There's so much to the pyramids. And if you read the Law of One, and I talked about this on my channel too, and I'll bring this up. In the Law of One, the group that they're channeling is a group called Ra, and they call themselves so the Brothers and Sisters of Sorrow. Why? They're a sixth density collective consciousness. Why do they call themselves the Brothers and Sisters of Sorrow? Because they say they came to Earth to try to teach humans about their soul. And they did that by creating shapes like the pyramid, like to show people how energy moves, right? And what happened to us around the crash of Atlantis was that the elite, the dark forces, took that and inverted it and caused destruction. And that is why the Law of One, they call themselves the Brothers and Sisters of Sorrow, because they feel so bad about what they tried to do to help us, that this darkness took it and inverted it. So I thought that was interesting that the controllers have taught us that Cheops, this tyrannical pharaoh, built the pyramids as kind of like a narcissistic mausoleum for all of the world to know who the pharaoh was. Whereas people who deeply study the emerald tablets say, no, Thoth built the pyramids. He built them as a library, as a temple. And underneath these pyramids is something called the halls of Amente. So what are the halls of Amente? Well, if you study the halls of Amente, it really feels like it's Agartha, which is the world beneath us. That's what it sounds like to me. Now we know in Agartha, in the underneath our earth, there is a civilization, right? And we know that in Agartha there are both good and bad entities, just like on our earth there are good and bad. Well, in the halls of Amente is where Thoth hid the emerald tablets for 36,000 years. And according to the legend, he anointed certain priests of high orders to protect the emerald tablets from the dark forces. Now, there is also, apparently, in the halls of Amente, technology left over from Atlantis, cures for diseases, all sorts of fun stuff that we haven't seen since our last incarnation into Atlantis. Now, why did he hide this? Well, let's go again and look back. Let's bring it back to the law of one and what the law of one talks about with the polarities of darkness and light. When you're in third density, which is what our planet is right now, you're in a planet of polarity, of both darkness and light. And this is because this gives you an opportunity through multiple incarnations to choose which path you're going to go on. Now, they call the path of light the service to others. They call the path of darkness service to self. Now, to go service to self, to go darkness, to go Luciferian, you have to be 99% service to self. This is why we see our controllers doing the horrific things that they do. They're intentionally going negative. They're intentionally serving themselves. All right. And the light is service to others. So we talk about empathy, compassion, working on your own projections. So when Atlantis fell, Lemuria was the time before confusion. So Lemuria was before the time of polarity. Polarity came in with Atlantis, which was necessary for our own evolution, for the planet's evolution to bring in that darkness to understand the light, to have the friction, right? It's very much necessary. There's a reason why, and Shanti, you've said this before, God created Lucifer. There's a reason why that happened. We needed the polarity. We needed it in order to find the friction. And so with Atlantis, though, what happened, and this is what happens when darkness takes control. So with the moving up the scales, once you get to fourth density, you're either going fourth density positive or fourth density negative. Now, here's the thing, and I don't know what that looks like. I have no idea. I know one of my past lives probably knows, but I have no idea what that looks like to be on a planet without polarity. I don't know. We'll see what that's like. But fourth density negative planets, that's the top of the ladder for them. They can't go beyond fourth density because they just implode on themselves. And then they have to go back and start again, right? But positive can keep going up. And eventually they do end up merging together. All right, so what happened with Atlantis was we are in the same predicament that we're in now, where we have this group of rulers of 1% that harnessed all the knowledge, all the secret information for themselves, and then it flipped it and inverted it. So that's why we see, like we keep telling you guys, all these Egyptian symbols are not bad. They were just inverted. The darkness can't create anything. It can only take from the light and invert. So darkness won with Atlantis, and that's why Atlantis fell, is because darkness can't sustain itself. But if we step back and take our egos out of it, it had to fall. That was the plan. It had to fall.
Can I chime in here? Yeah. Because I fully agree it had to fall. And if we look at how God speaks to us, let's just look at Atlantis. I mean, how did Atlantis go? Floods, water, right? So when we're looking at, and that's kind of like when God said, okay, guys, try again. So the overwhelming evidence of what we were lacking in that time was the element of water, not necessarily physical water, but the element of water, which is emotion. Yeah. So we were at our spiritually, at a very high, or probably the most highly evolved than what we've ever been, right? So, but then kaboom, the floods came. And that's when fear set in, because people were not in full union. It wasn't IQ and EQ. It was just spiritual intelligence, if you know what I'm saying. One of the elements, okay, that we hadn't integrated, and we hadn't understood the power of our emotions yet. What we are, and what I do believe the teachings of Atlantis are yet to remind us of, when we take it away from the physical and take it back to the non-physical, we're going to see that the thing that we need to look at most as human beings is our emotions, because they use crystals a lot. And crystals work extremely well because they vibrate with healing, because they vibrate on a very similar frequency to the human energy. So they literally open up the blocked highways, energy highways in the body. Okay. But you use them as a tool. Anything external to yourself should be used as a tool. So they should be used as a tool to open up and get the flow going, but it's up to you to keep it going. And we were not having that yet. We could not keep that flow going. So that's why we had the floods, because we were not.
And God was like, I'll give you a clue of what you're missing.
Yes, just a teeny tiny. Must we learn to swim, God? Must we learn to swim? Must we get boats?
God's probably like doing a face slant all the time. Like, they're still not getting it. No, absolutely. And that's what I'm saying. Like, that's, and you guys, like, when you stop fearing the darkness, that's when you take your power back. When you stop fearing that, when you stop fearing what we've been told to fear, and that's in learning those emotions. And we look at, like, if we look at them, we had Tartaria, all these things, these were learning. We were learning so that we could get to this moment right here where we are now. Now we've had the exercises. Now we've done the SAT prep. Now we've done the testing prep. We've done the flashcards. We've done everything. So now, and he talks about this in the Emerald Tablets. He basically thought was like, well, this is going to take a while, but they need it. He talks about how we were going to have to go through many reincarnations to figure it out. So he wrote us a little note. Yeah. He was like, I'm just going to read you some notes because I think you're going to figure it out eventually. And that's what the Emerald, and then he hid him away because he knew that we had the 1,000 Years of Peace with Tartaria, but then we have the Gog and Magog. He knew that this friction was not going to end, that it was not going to go away, and that we were going to then we were going to be put into this ending point where it was going to get so intense. I mean, hello, United States of America this week, we're walking into what should be a very interesting week. I'm not going to say anything more. That's how I'm just viewing it. It's interesting because everything is so effing obvious at this point. It's not even funny as what's going on between darkness and the light, right? I mean, again, like, it's kind of like the Great Flood. God is basically making this an open book test. Like, come on. It's pretty obvious, you know? If you fail an open book test.
Yep.
I don't want to call people stupid, but if the shoe fits,
you just gotta learn how to watch for the signs, right?
I'm just like, I look at people sometimes and I'm like, do you, like, I'll go in the grocery store and I still see these and I'm like, do you not see the same thing? I mean, this is pretty obvious at this point. It doesn't take a genius or rocket science to figure out what's happening. I think God is really helping us out here by making things very obvious. But anyway, I digress. It's good to be able to laugh at our current situation. But that is why. So the law of one, and I bring the law of one into this because what I'm learning from Thoth and what I've learned from the law of one mirror each other, right? They mirror it. They're saying the same thing. And so basically the law of one states that there is a group of people on the earth right now called wanderers. I think all three of us are wanderers. And I think a lot of people watching right now are wanderers. What does that mean? That means that, first of all, we were here for the fall of Atlantis. So karmically, guess what we got to do? We had no choice but to come back. We got to do it again. We got to be like, oh, fuck.
Try again. I'm sorry. Oh, dear. Now, just remember next time. Just remember. Simpson, just remember. Yeah.
It's like when a parent sends their child to kindergarten and packs their backpack and make sure they have their lunch. I can see God out there with this, like, all right, you've got your lunch. You've got this. Okay, do you have all the emergency numbers? Like, we can't screw up this time. And we're all sitting on the school bus going back to Earth, and we're like, if any one of you fucks up this time, like.
I like that analogy.
But I'm sitting there going, okay, I got my bikini, I'm off, cheers, I'll see you. Kaplunk. I like having you. What can I say? I enjoy it. Yeah, it's fun.
Imagine us though on that school bus, like mad at each other because we have to go back and do it again. Because we were the team that messed up. No, I'm just kidding, guys. I'm kidding. I like Earth too. I like my life for the most part. Like I like Earth as well. But I want you guys to see that that's what we had to come back. We had no choice but to come back because we were the situation the first time. Right? This is our battle. This is why it's not the time to sit back and eat your popcorn. You are very much an active part in this, this battle. Please remember you're a part of this because we don't want to have to do this again. God doesn't care if we have to do this again because our souls are eternal. I don't want to do this again.
I don't.
You know, I want to move forward. That's what I want.
You know?
Yes, and so that's why it is, and that's why. So back to the halls of Amente. So Thoth knew in his immortal wisdom being, where he had figured it out, been enlightened, that there was going to be a lot of dark forces that were going to try to fuck with us again. And so he hired immortal priests, to guard these tablets in the halls of Amente, so that the dark forces could not steal them. Now, if you look at the mainstream narrative of the Emerald Tablets, these are not fictitious things, guys. These, like, I have them right here. These are like real artifacts that have been found. Now, the mainstream might say, oh, we found them here, found them there. But all these people who are like experts at them and have spent their life studying the Emerald Tablets say, we don't know how the hell these things were found. 10 tablets just all of a sudden appeared. We're still missing 2. There's still 2 tablets that have not appeared yet. My question is, maybe this could be a question for the cards a little bit later, Stephanie, is who has those 2 tablets? The good guys or the bad guys? And is that what part of the war is about?
But okay, that'd be interesting because maybe they'll just be revealed at the perfect time.
That's what I'm kind of thinking. Because why would Thoth go to this much trouble to like really hide these suckers and hire priests to protect us? And what, Stephanie?
I have a question about this.
Yeah.
Book of Daniel in the Bible. It's incomplete. And Daniel purposely hid the last part of it. Wonder if this is a link.
Well, okay, that's a good point. And I know this is going to trigger people. Don't shoot the messengers. I know we're the trigger cheerleaders over here. We trigger people all the time. That's our job. That's our part in the team is to trigger people. Go triggers! Yay!
Cages, yeah, we just rattle those cages. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up.
Well, this is going to upset some Christians. And if it upsets you, don't retaliate against us. Do your own research. So Thoth lived for 16,000 years. And then and I've heard that when we figure it out, we'll just be able to go, you know what? I'm leaving, and we'll leave and come back when we want to. So that death isn't really a thing. So he came back, I think, 2 other times. One is Hermes, the Greek god Hermes, and the other was Yeshua, otherwise known as Jesus. So I don't know how I feel about this. I don't have an opinion on it. I just learned this the other day, so I'm just kind of waiting to see how things unfold, right? Interesting. But if you read the Emerald Tablets, which you too can buy the Emerald Tablets, the exact same teachings of Yeshua are in the Emerald Tablets. So riddle me that, Batman. If the Bible is the word of God, then how come the Emerald Tablets say the same thing that were written long before the Bible? And this is all coming back
by Thoth, who's supposedly this really evil dude.
No, he's a good guy. Well, they tell us he's evil, but he's a good guy. He calls himself he's supposed to be. And so this is my thing too. So we know, I'm seeing it so effing clearly now what's happened. The Christian faith is one of the biggest religions in the world. And they have conditioned us, and I remember this in Sunday school, to believe that the Egyptians were the bad guys And Moses and his posse were the good guys. Now, I'm not saying anything about the Jewish faith because they're a really great Jewish people. I'm talking about I'm not going to say the full name. I'm talking about a particular sect of people. We know who we're talking about, right? Everybody watching knows who we're talking about. The Egyptians were the faith that pulled over from Atlantis. So we are the Egyptians, guys. So when you're taught the Egyptians are evil, they're telling you that you're bad, you're wrong. No, we know with the, I don't know how many times we have to say it, Moses did not write the 10 Commandments. He did not have a psychedelic experience on the mountain with God.
I'm reading the Egyptian Book of the Dead, which is not the original name. I forgot what the original name is, but
I'm the light.
And it's literally the Bible it's like the Bible, except it's more loving than the Bible.
There's no truth.
They literally plagiarized the whole Bible from the Book of the Dead.
Yeah, the Bible's plagiarized. It's propaganda. It's not.
It stole the 10 Commandments from the Egyptian Book of the Dead.
Yeah, and this is fact, guys. This is just purely fact. It's plagiarized. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. It's fact. It was called the Egyptian Book of Going Forth into the Light. That was their book. And they served one source God, one God of that we all are a part of, the Creator. The group, Moses' cronies and his friends, worshiped the Elohim, which is multiple, right? So they flipped it. They inverted it. They made everything backwards. They were asked to leave Egypt because they were doing so many horrific things, black magic spells against the Egyptians, that they actually asked them politely to leave.
In the book on Moses, black magic spells, by the way.
Oh, yeah. The 6th and 7th book of Moses is a missing book. It's all grimoire. That's how we know that the name Yahweh is Moloch. Stop saying Yahweh. Yahweh's Moloch. And I'm not the only research to point that out. Mr. Mythos on his channel, he's done a deep dive into this. Many people have done a deep dive into Jordan Maxwell, what Yahweh actually means. It does not mean your God. It's talking about Moloch.
And church is mind control.
And church means mind control. Yes, church comes from the Greek god Circe, which is the Kirk in Scottish. She was the goddess of hypnotizing people and then feeding off of their souls. Did you ever wonder why, as a Christian, they call it a church and not a temple? There's your answer. There is your answer.
Run that by me again, please. What was the name of the person who was doing that?
It was a Greek. The Greek goddess Circe, who was she hypnotized people and then she fed off of their souls, basically. Anointing someone, we know putting oil on someone and anointing them is anointing them for sacrifice. So when you take your child to get baptized in a white outfit, you're offering your child as a sacrifice to Yahweh.
Or Moloch. When I found this out, I wanted to go to my Presbyterian church I was raised in and have them burn my baptismal records. I was so pissed. But then I was like, you know what? No, I don't consent. I was a baby. And so if you're triggered by this, I'm just asking you, do your own research. The information is out there. If you still think the church is not a part of this system, then again, I have a bridge in London that I want to sell you. Because
the church is the system.
It is the system. It is the cabal. It is the Satanist. It's the church.
Is the infiltrator. I always say that. I've been saying that for a long time now. So when we can wrap our head around that, then
yes.
Everything makes sense. Yeah.
So everything the church told you was evil is good, and everything they told you is good is evil. They took the teachings of Yahshua, and they mixed them with the story of Mithra. Study Mithraism. So the teachings of the Christ mixed in with an old story of satanic human sacrifice. Once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Yeah, that's true.
Once you see what they're doing, and that has made my faith in God even stronger because I see now. I once was blind, but now I see. And so when we look at Thoth, who we've been told was some demonic being, and we realize, and we actually, how many people in our lives have been told something was demonic, but we didn't take the time to actually research for ourselves? That happens so many times. Why not just get the emerald tablets and read them for yourself? Why not do the research for yourself? Why does your
I think
preacher
people are also
Yeah.
conditioned.
do what?
People are conditioned. People in the Christian church are conditioned not to ever look outside of the Bible. So that's the first cage or the first jail cell anybody
That's
needs to break is, and that's a form of control there. You know, in order to understand the light, you must understand the dark. So to a Christian, if this is the darkness, then you still need to look into it to find the truth.
Right.
Did I freeze?
But no, truth will set you free.
And it's a jail cell. It's a jail cell, and we each individually have the key to our own jail cell to allow us to break out of that. So it's a choice, and people can get triggered by it, but it's very, very liberating once you do find out the truth. Yeah, it hurts at first. You know, coming out of the church, it was hard for me to accept these things at first too. Of course, you know, I'd spent my whole entire life with this concept of Christianity and everything, but you know, it's I no longer have fear about death or fear about, I mean, granted, I have humanly fears that come up once in a while. I think the two of you know my last week has brought those fears up, but you know, it's that's just my work that I have to work through. But I don't have the fear like I used to. I'm a lot more braver than I used to be, and I have a closer relationship with the true God than I ever have. So coming from the church, I do recommend people try to at least research for themselves before they, you know, start calling us out all sorts of names. Because I'm not.
We have the research to back it up. I have the research to back up my theories. Where's your research? Yeah. Don't say the Bible, because I can show you how the Bible was plagiarized. The Bible, the copyright of the Bible is owned by the Windsors. The Windsors owned the copyright to the Bible. That is not the word of God. If there's a copyright on it by the royal family, then that is not the word of God. Yeah, the Windsors own the copyright to the Bible. Why is the Bible?
So that tells me too that the Bible is not as old as.
No, and nobody owns a copyright to the Emerald Tablets. Thoth was like, we're just gonna hide these for a moment until they can handle it. I don't know why I gave Thoth a southern accent, but there you go. You know, we've been lying. Sorry.
I can imagine him with the southern accent, so I think that was a good one.
How y'all doing? He's coming back to Earth. He's like, how y'all doing? Sugar, you good? You good, Sugar? Yeah, all right. So yes. So the Emerald Tablets, and the Emerald Tablets, like what I've read of these have like made me so emotional. They're so beautiful. And they talk about, I recorded the part of the third tablet where he talks about the halls of Amente. And he actually talks about how after he went through, yes.
Look at this. Sorry. Yeah. This is actually quite interesting. I'm just going through the comment. Chamber for cellular regeneration. That was actually I was going to say that looks like they're making med beds or something. It looks like the original. He looks like he had the original med bed.
Yeah, right? So maybe that's where we get the med beds from. Maybe they're pulling them up from the halls of Amente. You know, these are questions we need to ask. And you know, he talks, and the recording I released with the third tablet. And if you guys want, we can go through all of the tablets if you guys want to, and talk about them and talk about what he's saying. If that's something for people who are maybe scared to research or confused, if you want, and that's up to Shanti and Stephanie and you guys watching, if you want us to go through all 10 tablets, I would be more than happy to do that. So that's up to you guys.
Hello. Well, I think I was actually going to say that, and I see one of our lovely viewers here has said the same thing. Brice, you should read on no, this channel. Thank you. This channel. Brice, you're reading about
yes. So that's I was actually considering asking you guys that after we went through this kind of this backhanded research today, because or not backhanded, but the backstory. Because from what I understand about Thoth and any great teacher, it's we need to understand who he was and what he had accomplished to write these, but it's about the teaching. And so that's why I kind of want to go into, and if he incarnated again as Yeshua to come back once again and reiterate these teachings, especially with the missing books, the Gnostic books of the Bible, then I would love to go through, the first tablet kind of gives us more of a geography too of where things were. Now, this is interesting too. I forgot to say this earlier. So we call it Egypt. Do you know what he called his country? He called it the land of Chem, Khem. This is where we get the word alchemy from.
Ah, okay, nice.
From. Ding, ding, ding. So his whole land was this magical place. Well, we call it magic, but it's literally what we're supposed to do, which is transmuting, going into the darkness, coming out the other side, going back to the darkness, coming out the other side again. I was telling Stephanie in a show, like, we have all these metaphors of going into the underworld and coming back out. But what they don't tell you is that you're going to go into the underworld a lot. Like, get yourself some beachfront property because you're going to be going back and forth, right? It's not just a one time and done. Like, it takes, we humans have to learn things multiple times before we get it sometimes, you know? So he was the land of Chem. Now, so the first tablet does get into some of the geography of this, and like we can start to explore, like, where were these actual locations? Where was he talking about when he mentioned this place? You know, because we have emerald tablets, copies of emerald tablets in Mayan ruins in the Americas as well. And so his teachings went everywhere. They went everywhere and were put down and hidden. Again, in the halls of Amente, underneath the earth, in Agartha, right? So yeah. With that being said, I know we've only got like a few minutes left because time always goes by so fast. Do we want to ask Stephanie some questions with the cards, Monty, or?
I think it's nice just to have, maybe Steph can do a confirmation, just like a general confirmation. I think, you know, I'm very comfortable with what you're saying. Everything resonates with me. I love the idea of doing the emerald tablets, and of course our viewers are delighted. So we're going to be doing that very soon.
So this is one of my copies of the tablets, guys. I will send a link to this maybe to Morning Ashanti. This is our friend Cindy goes by this, and this is really good. They even talk about it in here, the beginning about this is where I got some of my sources from. And of course, Billy Carson is incredible too. He's done a lot of work. He's written a lot of books on the emerald tablets. So if you guys want to get your own copy for yourself, now as Stephanie's pulling, I have this as well. So this is an actual shadow work journal where you go through the emerald tablets and answer questions and look into your own self. So if this is something that people doing the shadow work, if this is something you want, I've been doing it. I've been answering the questions and doing these workbooks. If this is something that you want to purchase for your shadow work, because this is for the tablet 3, because tablet 3 really gets into like the darkness and the underworld. And he actually wrote this. So his wife was a woman named Shishat. I always want to say Shishat. Shishat. And she wrote it with him. So his wife wrote it with him. His divine feminine counterpart wrote it with him. And so if you want to take the emerald tablets to a deeper level, this is a great workbook. And the person who put it together will ask you questions about the reading and about your own consciousness and all that kind of stuff, and give you meditations and stuff. So that's another option as well. So what'd you get, Steph? What does Source want to tell us about Thoth?
Well, just in general, I was asking about the emerald tablets. A lot to do with divine feminine energy, that's for sure. We have the Empress and the Queen of Pentacles right here. So those two are next to each other. So that's very, very divine feminine type of energy. But I also feel like what the Empress card is also saying is it's like a guide of the rebirthing of the next age or the new age, right? Because the Empress is about rebirth. In addition to that, I got the Death card. So these are both have a lot to do with rebirthing. But in addition to that, in between the two cards was the Three of Cups. So that is saying that, yes, we all did come back for this. Absolutely.
It's
We were
celebratory.
birthed to come back.
Celebration.
Yeah.
Yeah. And offer, this is the cups, right? This is the love offering, the Knight of Cups. Shanti went into the water with the emotion. So we come back as this emotional, like a lot of us are the wanderers, the six grade or six dimensional souls that incarnated back. We're all empathic, right? We're giving our love and our devotion and our guidance and teachings and whatnot to the earth, to the, to the truth. Yep. And then we have a Hierophant. So Hierophant is spiritual leadership. And the thing is, it's next to the Tower card. So I think, yes, our job is to crack religious constraints. Okay, so these tablets are to crack the illusion of the religion, the religious imprisonment is kind of what I'm getting here.
Yeah.
And if we're looking, I love this card. I'm using my Viking deck here, but this Ten of Wands is usually burden. But if we're looking at the card itself, it's like turning burden, turning darkness into, these kind of like feel like planets to me. These kind of feel like the chakras to me. Okay. And then bringing into the Four of Wands energy. So going from transmutation from dark to light kind of a thing.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Making whole. Yeah. Now, in the third tablet, he speaks a lot. I told you this beforehand, Stephanie. And if you guys, Ashanti and Morning again, if we're done, if you want to put the recording of the third, it's like over like 12 minutes of the third tablet. He talks a lot about there's 32 people. Something about 30, he uses the number 32. 30 and 2 souls that went down and decided to come back up again. So made the decision, like you see at the end where the teacher or the guide says, okay, you're done. You've passed. Where do you want to go next? And they volunteered to go back up again to help the children. That's another thing. He talks about the children of men and the children of light. So there are people who are considered the children of men and people who are considered the children of light. I take that to mean the children of men are not the wanderers. The children of light are the wanderers who chose to come back. They made the decision to come back, although we did have a karmic one-way ticket back, or round trip ticket back. Can we ask, I've been very fascinated though, who are these 32 people that Thoth is talking about? Well, the cards.
It's from if you look at the Egyptian Book of the Dead, they're called tables or something like that, the different chapters in the Egyptian Book of the Dead.
Yeah.
When somebody goes into what we would call the underworld of death, right? And meets with God, God is surrounded by certain ancient deities from the past, such as
so ascended masters, basically.
Isis, oh my God, what are the other ones? The Egyptian.
So this would be like ascended masters, more or less.
So God is on the throne, it explains, and then the thrones next to him, the Christians would say those are angels. Angels are literally off-worlder messengers. Yes, they are ascended masters. So if we're looking at it in the Egyptian standpoint, these God is surrounded by the throne, on the throne, and then surrounding him are all the ascended masters. But let's look and see what these 32 are all about.
I thought it was interesting that it's 32, not, we see the dark side use 33 a lot, but this was 32. And he mentions it a few times, 30 and 2 souls, 30 and 2 souls. And so I'm like, and that, we've heard 144,000. We hear these numbers of these souls. And so I'm just curious as to what he was talking about. And this is the third tablet, guys, again. And maybe there's going to be more information to come up as we go through the other tablets. The third tablet is the key of wisdom. So that's why it gets focused on a lot. It's because it's really like the Big Mac Daddy, where it's like, ta-da, jazz hands. Like, this is why you came back to do this. You came back so that you can go into the underworld. You came back to go into the scary forest and to confront the ghost and the demons. And so that's why you came back.
So karmically, it's 32 people that karmically needed to come back. with the Judgment card, has a lot to do with the soul tribe. Okay. It probably has a lot to do with the two bloodlines of light, is what I'm getting. We have the Six of Cups. Six of Cups is like family. It could be like, normally talks about family reuniting. So I'm kind of getting soul tribe, a reuniting of the soul tribes working together. We do have the Four of Wands, so that could also be like twin energy right there. And then we have the World card. So these are people that are literally going to, I feel I'm getting more ascended master type of energy here. They're gifted. Queen of Wands. So these would be people that are like highly intuitive people, because the wands are about intuition and everything. These would probably be what we would call like light workers. So people who do work with the elements, who work with nature, to heal, because Queen of Wands, she heals. But it's like they're here to stir up chaos. Seven of Cups. They're here to really kind of like what we're doing.
What was this saying? I came here to chew bubblegum and fight, and I'm all out of bubblegum. Like, wasn't there like a famous saying about that or something? Yeah, they're the cheerleading squad of the triggers. They're here to trigger people.
I mean, they're definitely warriors. Got the Seven of Wands. I mean, these are they're warriors. They're intuitive light workers. They're ascended masters. They're people with the correct tools under their tool belt to come back to help bring the earth to its proper balance, is kind of what I'm gauging here, kind of on an intuitive level.
So can we ask where those, who's in possession of the other two tablets that we haven't found yet?
A good question.
And then Shanti, I don't know if our audience or if you have any questions. I'm curious about the med beds too, if that's what's in. I always see it in my head like a tanning bed, like you're getting into like a tanning bed. So like tanning beds under the earth. There's tanning. Actually, I think a spa, a good name for a spa would be the halls of Amente at this point. Like if anybody wants to name their spa Amente, because it sounds like that might be what's part of the halls of Amente, is all this rejuvenation stuff. The good kind, not the drinking kind that the bad people do, but the good kind. Ooh.
Well, it's definitely not in the hands of bad guys, which I intuitively didn't think it was. So, yeah, it's being guarded with the Four of Pentacles. So somebody's like holding on to it. You know what I mean? And it's next to the Hierophant. The Hierophant is not negatively aspected though, because that could go either way.
Yeah.
But because there's no evil cards next to the Hierophant, it was next to the Eight of Wands. So I do feel like it was quickly protected. And then we have the Nine of Cups, which is like wishful thinking. So we want it to be in the hands of the good, right? And then with the Ten of Pentacles. So I do feel like it's more than one person. I do feel like these are good beings, but they're very spiritual beings. I'm not even picking up human. Like just intuitively, I just getting that download. It's not, they're not
Nothing
even
shocks me at this point. So
I'm almost picking up like very, how do I put it? I don't know how I want to. Oh wow, I'm seeing weird symbols all of a sudden in my head. That's really strange. Sorry. I know what I want to say, but I don't know how to get it out verbally here. I'm almost getting like mythical creatures, kind of, or mythical beings that like very not necessarily enlightened, but definitely very like high vibrational beings. Because that Ten of Pentacles to me like stands out as like very high vibrational.
Yeah.
So.
Shanti, do you have
Thoth really spent a boatload of money on protection.
They might have, hell, you know what? They might have been like, listen, we got to pull all of our resources together or we're fucked. If the bad guys get a hold of this.
I mean, the Hierophant is very clearly stating that it's definitely guarded by spiritual beings. These are people who are probably like definitely working for the light. They're working for the good of humanity. They're working on behalf of the true God, the creator. You know what I mean? So that's good news.
Yeah, I know.
it is good news.
I just saw Sylvia asked, did Moses steal the emerald tablets? No, Sylvia, he stole the Egyptian book of the dead, which is what we call it now. It's called the Egyptian book. I was supposed to say the bitchin' book. I'm going forth into the light. God's having fun with us this morning. The emerald tablets seem to be safe. I wonder if they're really emerald. I know emerald green is the heart chakra, right? That's the, and I always see my higher self with green right here.
Yeah, I think that's why it's called that. Yeah, I'm sure that's why it's called it that. Yeah. Wow.
Are there any questions you have, Shanti?
I'm good. Hey, I've enjoyed the chat. I've enjoyed what's been revealed. It makes sense to me. All good. I look forward to are we going to start next week going through the emerald tablets?
Again, guys, this is the book I have by Doreel, translation and interpretation. Is super cheap on Amazon. Super cheap.
Can you send us the link? Can you send me the link into WhatsApp?
Yeah, I'll send you the link to this, which is just like your own shadow work book that you can do. It's like a workbook through the third, which is the key of wisdom, where you can answer questions about your own, So I'll send you these links, Morning and Shanti, once we get off for our friends. So
thank you, honey. And I look forward to next week. Thank you, Steph. That was great. I enjoyed those readings as well. Makes a lot of sense. It just, I think, brings clarity. Thank you to all our beautiful viewers out there, guys. Hope you had fun with us on Mystery Monday. And we shall see you soon. And I'm not sure. Oh, yes. If there's anyone who wants to join, I'm starting on Thursday, Conscious Creation, 7-week mentorship workshop with me, basically on manifestation. So how do we consciously create a different outcome in our lives? That's it's not like part 4, but it's one of the 4 workshops or mentorship programs that I offer. So we're busy recording, and there's, I think, a couple of slots available, very limited because we're recording for teaching purposes. So if you want to be part of that, please let us know. Look forward to having you guys there then, and that'll be starting on Thursday. Perfect. So I think it's wonderful. Thank you, Brice. Thank you, Steph. God bless you all. And if you guys haven't already, please like, share, subscribe, share, like. Just notify yourself, all these things, Yeah.
All the YouTube things.
Cheers.